is Tarik Talk. Your host, Tarik Mendez, takes you on a journey with guests from all around the world. Broadcasting around the world. Around the world. This is Tarik Talk.
All right, guys, today we have the one, the only, McCall. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm honored.
Thank you.
This is actually will be the first episode for season 3, so what better way to have the one, the only Tris right here today with us.
Thank you for having me. It's great that you do this.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. So do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Tris. I have lived in Hudson County for more than 30 years. And in that time that I've been in Hudson County, I have done a lot of writing. Some of it's been for publications, the Hudson County publications. I think I've written for every indie publication that has come up in Jersey City. I've done a lot of writing on my own, and I've also, in that time, done writing that is not journalism. It's either fiction or nonfiction, and I've also written a lot of music. So I've been around, and there's probably too much of me out there, but I've definitely been out there.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. What's your creative process? Because I noticed when you came during a studio visit during R150, one thing that I observed that I thought was so amazing is how attentive you are to details. I had a few other people in my studio, and they kind of look at things. They might take a picture or two, and they'll try to do everything by memory. But I noticed the questions you ask, how long you look at the pieces and how you take pictures of every piece that you're interested in. I thought that was so inspiring, and how I was like, wow, my gosh, she's so attentive. So can you tell us a little bit about your creative process?
I've been doing reviews for NJArts.com and Jersey City Times, especially Jersey City Times, for the past 2 years, and because of that, I feel that to some degree I have a professional obligation to be as attentive as I can be. But even if I didn't, I think I would still, if I walk into a gallery or if I walk into a show or a studio, I'm thinking about, well, the first thing that I'm thinking about is, what is it that drove this artist to put in the time and effort to make the pieces that they made? Because you're talking about something that not only is a lot of time, but it's also, there's an emotional investment too for the artist. Almost always, you're seeing a work that they've done that they've really put their heart into. They wouldn't do that unless they had something that was burning that they wanted to say to you. Wow. So I feel that it is my responsibility to be as attentive as I can be, and I think anybody who walks in on somebody, because you're seeing a piece of, not to be cheesy, but you're seeing a piece of their soul there. You're seeing a piece of their heart, and they're putting it on the wall, and they're giving it all to you, and all you've really got to do is open your eyes as wide as you can and take it in as best as you can. So, and to try to be attentive and try to figure out what it is that they're trying to communicate to you. And sometimes they might not even know. Sometimes artists aren't really thinking, they don't necessarily have the idea first and then they paint to the idea or they sculpt to the idea. The idea may come out as they're doing their work, but it doesn't really matter. They're still trying to communicate something to you. Otherwise, they wouldn't take the risk of putting it out in public. So then it's on me to be as good an audience member, or as good a listener, and as good a respondent as I can be. And so that's kind of what I think of.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah. And I have to add, when you did the review for us for the group show that we did at R150, I think it was May last year.
Impact, yes.
There's logistics problem, lighting, everybody was upset by certain lights that wasn't working. But then I remember the exact moment you wrote the review and the review went live for us. Yeah. We were me and a few people, we were running around seeing who was there that was part of the show that was in the studio. Yeah. We were oh my God, guess what? We got a review, because we're trying to bring everybody to the common space to read it together. It was this, I don't know, this collective it felt like I was like in Warhol's factory. You know what I mean?
It's
Like
beautiful.
we were just like so excited. So thank you for that. I was like,
That makes me
we
very
were
happy.
so much fun, and everyone's like, what happened? What happened? We're like, we got a review. Come read it. We're gonna read it in the comment space.
Yes.
But yeah, so thank you so much for everything that you do for our community and how you highlight everything. I mean, I always think you must be so busy because you're like your reviews are always like as soon as the show premieres, it just comes right on. I'm like, my God, this guy is so ambitious and organized and amazing.
I've tried to be comprehensive because there's
Yeah.
so much that is happening, and I think that, as you said, like, there's a certain novelty in Hudson County to getting your work reviewed, which really shouldn't be, but it's always kind of been that way. It's hard to find criticism. It's not really something that we do as well as we do the art. So there's definitely a need for it because we do want to talk about it,
Yeah.
and it does help. When I do anything that I do, I'm always hoping that somebody will come and write something or listen to it and give me and let me know what they think
Yeah.
or how they felt about it. So I guess I'm trying to return the favor in advance.
No, I have
Yeah.
to tell you, like even like for the most recent article I did with the 3 shows, like
Yeah.
oh my God, like it wasn't my show, but everybody for the lobby show and the upstairs, everybody was so excited that you did that.
Yes.
Yeah, like we're all like forwarding each other, like, hey, do you see the link? Check this out, share it
Yeah.
on Instagram,
Yeah.
do as much as you can. So yeah, that's amazing. It's like really hard to, come by people that are so genuine like you, talented of course, but also you go above and beyond and you care a lot. Like it's the little details
Thank you.
that's truly amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Creatively, like my brain is always on. I'm always like thinking of ideas or getting
Yeah.
inspired. Are you that type of person? Like you're always on the go, kind of like with your creative brain?
Yes, I'm always thinking about. Yes, I'm always putting sentences together in my head, and I'm always turning them around in my head, and I'm always thinking about how I could better say what I'm trying to say, because writing about art is kind of a challenge for me. I don't really have an arts background at all.
Oh my God,
I
really?
don't really know anything about it. I really don't. I always say I don't really know anything about
You're
visual
so
art.
descriptive. Wow.
Yes, I don't really know anything about visual art. I am completely self-taught. I started going to museums all the time, maybe about 10 years ago.
Mhm.
I started covering all the museum shows in New York, and when I did, I didn't know anything past.
Mhm.
Andrew Wyeth was about, I knew about that. I knew about Grant Wood. That's
Yeah.
basically what I knew about. I knew about some American painters, but I knew very little besides that. So I'm not a person who knows much about visual art. So it's always a bit of a challenge. And learning the language to write about something that you don't really know that much about can be difficult, and coming up with your own way of putting things can be tricky. So I'm always turning sentences around in my head.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
always trying to figure out what I actually think about something, because the task always becomes make your real human reaction show on the page, if you can. So make that appear if you can. And yes, I wake up and I think about like what I'm going to write that day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, one of my first thoughts in the morning is like, I'll try to formulate a paragraph while I'm just getting my eyes ready to go.
That's
So,
amazing. That's actually that was gonna be my next question. Like,
yes.
how is your writing process? Like, are you like a nighttime person, or are you like a morning person, as you said?
I'm frequently a train person. I do a lot of writing on the train because if I'm traveling to a practice or I'm traveling to a show or
Yeah.
something, I'll bring the laptop on the train.
Oh, wow.
And it's good because there aren't any distractions, and I can
Yeah.
sit there and I can write like that. When I used to cover pop shows, which I did quite a lot in Newark, I covered pretty much any pop star who came to Newark. I wrote about the show. So deadlines for newspapers are very tight. So I would have to write something on the train. So I'd get out of the Prudential Center and I'd immediately get on the PATH train, and then the time on the PATH train back to Jersey City I would take, and I would write the review of the show. So if it was like Lady Gaga was playing at Prudential
Roseland?
Center.
Okay.
Prudential,
Yeah.
Roseland.
Yeah.
Oh, did you see Lady Gaga at Roseland?
No, I had
Did you?
tickets, but I got sick. Yeah, but I heard
I
it's
saw Lady
amazing.
Gaga do a fantastic show at Roseland,
Yeah.
which was really just her on, it was a small scale show. It was
Yeah.
really her on the piano. And if you have never, if you're a fan, which she's not my favorite pop star, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for her. She's a great, great singer.
Absolutely.
And a really cool piano player, and she did a lot of stuff it was a much more intimate setting, and it kind of gave you a sense of where she was going in her career. This was post Monster Ball.
Oh,
That was
okay.
another one that was very cool to see, write about immediately. And
Wow.
then, so I do a lot of writing when I'm in my groove, I do a lot of writing
Yeah.
very fast. I have the experience. It's an
Oh,
emotional experience.
yeah.
And I kind of try to write about it right then.
I'm just so impressed that one, you can write so quickly and so well, and then two, of all places in the whole earth, you can write on the train.
Yes,
Like,
the train is fun to ride on.
That's amazing.
It is. Yeah.
Like just because of, I mean, I'm very easily distracted. Like, and I get car sick, so to me, the train is just like mentally, I'm just like, okay, you're almost there, you're almost there.
Yeah.
So the fact you're able to like zoom out and concentrate and do it so well, that's amazing.
Thank you.
I love hearing that. And changing topics really quick because we were just talking about Roseland. There's a show that I always wish I went to was with Yoko Ono and Gaga. Did you ever see that
I knew that
performance?
existed, but I
It
didn't
just
see
reminded me of that.
Yes.
I thought you would
Yes.
appreciate it, but that's like a performance I wish I went. It looked
Yeah.
pretty cool. Yeah. And who are your inspirations? Like, where do you get inspired? Are you like inspired by people, by conversation, or by nature?
Inspired to write, I guess I'm most inspired by the stuff that I am seeing. So if I go and I see your show, I will try to be attentive to the textures that you're using, the colors that you're using, the rhythms that are in
Yeah.
your work, and I'll try to, when I write a review of the show, I'll try to not just describe, but impart a little bit of that aesthetic to what I'm writing. So let's say I'm writing about Susan Evans Grove. There is there's a real rhythm to her work, and I think I've tried to replicate that rhythm in the stuff that I've written about her. So my most direct inspiration is whatever it is that I'm writing about.
Oh, wow.
In the general sense, as a writer, I'm inspired by a huge influence on me, and this is kind of funny. A big influence on my writing. I mean, I have very standard influences. Salinger's a big influence. George Bernard Shaw is a big influence. But Mike Lupica, the newspaper columnist, when I was a young person, I would read. He was a sports columnist, and he would and I would read the Daily News. I was really amazed and impressed by the way in which Mike Lupica would write to the moment, and he would do a great job of just writing exactly what happened in the game that night. And he would make it succinct and really cool. And I was like, this just happened. And here he just turned around and he wrote about it. And I could tell that he was that there was an intellectual and emotional connection that he was having with what was happening on the field. And I was like, when I start writing about music, because even as a kid, I always knew I would write about music. I was like, I want it to be like that. I want it to be fast. I don't want to labor over it. I want it to be exactly how this experience made me feel. I wanted it to be a real human reaction to that, and I felt like I kind of wanted it to be like Mike Lupica, and so that was definitely that's an unusual. I don't think there's probably not a lot of people who write about visual art who are inspired by sports writers, but maybe there are. Maybe there's more overlap. Yes,
that's really cool.
Newspaper writers. I always thought it was very, very cool to write for the newspaper. I've always loved writing for newspapers, and I think it's really cool to do it, and the idea of having a really tight deadline and getting right to it is inspiring to me.
Yeah.
The excitement of doing that, the excitement of being in a newsroom, which we're losing that, but the excitement of that is something that has always inspired me. Other writers, working around with other writers. And working in Jersey City is a lot of fun because there's so much to write about, and there's so much to be inspired by.
Oh, wow. And another question, when you have an assignment, like you have to go to a show or see anything specific, and when you're reviewing the art, are you able to enjoy it? Or like in the back of your mind, like, okay, I have to write about this, or can you like take a full, like, let's say like enjoy the experience from like a normal perspective, like of a person, just a viewer, or are you thinking like critically about, okay, I want to highlight this, I want to do that, or do you enjoy the experience first and then you do like the business part of it later?
That's a really good question. And the answer is that I don't know how to go to a show and not think critically. And that could be a criticism of me. Like, can't you just go and enjoy it?
Yeah.
But I am always, okay. So, just to explain why I'm doing this. For years and years and years, I wrote about popular music. I did popular music, I wrote about popular music. It's what I know about. And I would take my partner, who, alas, is no longer with us. She died last year. And for years, we would go to the shows, and we would see the shows. And throughout the show, she was the chair of the English department at New Jersey City University. So she was a writer and a word person too, and she was a critic in everything that she did. She had a critical eye. She cast a critical eye around the world, that's how she lived. And we would go together, and we would sit there, and we would watch the rock show, and we would rock out, or the pop show. We would go see Taylor Swift, and we would go see Beyonce. We would rock out, and we would love it. We would have a wonderful time. But the whole time, we were thinking, and then part of the enjoyment of it was that we would go home, and we would spend the next day taking it apart. Why did this work?
But you guys would talk to each other?
We would talk about it, yes.
Wow.
Why did this work? What was exciting?
Yeah.
How did this work on me emotionally?
Wow.
How did we would honestly go song by song. We'd go through the set list and be like, it was amazing when she did that. That didn't work. We would just talk about the whole thing. And part of the excitement for me was having that conversation with her. And then writing a review of the show was in a way an extension of that conversation.
Yeah.
I was letting other people into what we did naturally. And even before I had a column, we would do that. We would go out and we would see friends and we'd talk about it. When she got sick, she got very, very sick. She got sick in 2018, and she had been sick before that. It became impossible to go see Drake and have her stand at a Drake show. It became impossible for us to do that. So I thought that a thing that we could do, or that we could do together, was we could go to visual arts shows, and we could have the same conversation around visual art that we used to have around music. And that was very easy, and it was easy for her to do. We could go see a show for 15 minutes, and then spend the evening talking about what we saw. So we started going to museum shows. We started going much more to shows in Jersey City, and that is really how I reoriented myself and started doing what I've been doing, which is writing about this stuff, which also moves me very deeply.
Yeah.
But the other half of it is that I write about Jersey City because Jersey City is a wonderful place to see visual art. There are so many fantastic artists here, and people don't know that, and they have been under-publicized. And anything that I can do to make people more aware of what's happening in Jersey City, I will do, because it's very exciting. So, yes, having that critical. Do I roll in and do I ever just enjoy it without thinking critically? No, I can't do that. I mean, I've trained myself, and part of it was with Hillary. You had to be critical, so everything was good. But the criticism was part of the fun, and it never took away from how much enjoyment we took from seeing the stuff. Even shows that we didn't love, we still had a wonderful time talking about it.
I bet those conversations were so fulfilling.
Yes, they were very fulfilling, and
That's so beautiful.
Sorry, excuse me.
It's okay.
I get a little emotional thinking about this stuff because it was.
I mean, I'm emotional just hearing you describe.
Yeah, because it was really, it was a very important part of our relationship that we talked about everything. We talked about everything, and I love doing that. Now, I have a new partner, and she means everything to me. She's fantastic, and she has a totally different way of looking at art. But equally exciting and equally wonderful, and like it is great to talk to her about it. So now when we go to shows, I take her to art shows, and we talk about it all the time. We have those conversations. So I'm going to have those conversations with somebody always, and I'm never going to not have a critical eye when I walk in. But it doesn't mean that I'm not enthusiastic.
Yes,
I'm
yeah.
always enthusiastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I get very excited. you know?
Yeah, no, I'm
Seeing
the same
art,
way. Yeah.
seeing art
Yeah.
excites me. Yes.
Yeah, because like whenever I see paintings, and a lot of my friends are like, "My God, just enjoy the art," just you know, because I'll look at from like a painter's perspective, and I think,
Yes.
"Oh, where did they start? What did they finish? Like, why did they use that?" You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's how I work. And then when I'm done, kind of like analyzing it, like in an artistic way, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is really beautiful." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Do you find yourself applying it to the stuff that you do then when you see?
yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, for me, I always curious. Like, I'm so
Yes.
curious about the creative process. Like, what was the artist going through? Did they paint this?
Yes.
Like during like a turmoil or a happy moment, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like I always like the
totally.
behind
Yes.
much more than the actual artwork. Like I
Uh-huh.
like the journey and the process
Yes.
much more than the
Yeah.
finished product, you know?
Yes.
Because without that, there's no finished product.
So when you're there, you're looking at it, you're wondering about the journey.
Yeah,
You're wondering about like
yeah,
what was the process that got
yeah.
absolutely.
And I
yes.
love like sometimes like seeing if like they painted something first and maybe like painted on top. Because sometimes I
Totally,
do that
yes.
a lot. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I do that too. That you know what I mean? Like you have that connection to the
Painting
piece.
as a kind of overwriting. You
Yeah.
have a first idea, a first
Yeah.
draft, and then you can see traces of the first draft.
Yeah.
So it's like, how did that first draft influence what it became?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All of that
love,
stuff.
I love when people, like sometimes I used to like, if I messed up, I'll start again, or just like
Yeah.
rip certain pieces and use for like a sculpture or something. But now I kind of, it's almost like I don't know how to describe it. Do you remember like in the '90s, Where's Waldo?
Yes.
So I kind of like if I messed up nowadays,
Yeah.
I kind of just like paint it over, but very subtle. So
Uh-huh.
if somebody's really paying attention, they'll see there's something underneath there,
Yes.
you know. And I always love when people are like, hey, did you mean to paint that bathtub?
Yeah.
Without there's like a ladder on top of it. I'm like, great, I
Yes.
did. Yeah, but I just left
You
it
can
there.
find Waldo in there.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Waldo is-
I was
Waldo's
trying
in
to
there,
like,
Yes.
it's a little similar to like, Where's Waldo?
Yeah.
I also want to talk about the beautiful pictures on your Instagram.
Thank you.
I love, there's like a specific one by the park. I don't know what park it is, but the lighting and the shadows onto the pavement.
I know the one that you mean.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a beautiful day in Lincoln Park in Jersey
Oh,
City.
okay,
I
yes,
took a
yes,
shot there.
that one,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Well, I don't think of myself as a photographer, but all of the artists in Jersey City are on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was the best way to communicate directly with them might be to cultivate more of an Instagram presence than I had, which was basically nothing.
Yeah.
So I started to post my photographs around town to accompany links to what I'd written. So if I have a review up, I might do an Instagram picture that has something to do with what it is that I've reviewed. But I think what I don't do a good enough job of telling people, even in the art scene, is that my novel, I've written a lot of stuff, and I've also written a novel, and here I am hedging again about it. It's called The Trespassers, and it is about photographers. It's about young photographers.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about photography for a long time, and the way that photography mediates seeing for a very long time, because I wrote that novel more than 10 years ago, and it was published in 2012, so it's a long time ago. But it is, of all the things that I've done, the thing that means the most to me, and I feel like everything that I've written since has been a kind of restatement. And certainly the photographs that I do for Instagram are an attempt to get back into the world of the trespassers, to get back into the world of those characters.
Yeah.
Because what they do and what happens in the story is it's a group of five teenagers who spend a summer breaking into abandoned buildings and taking photographs of the inside of the building. And that's really all that happens in the book. It's not really plot-driven, it's more character-driven, and it's about their experience of the landscape. But those photographs that I take are kind of, I sometimes get myself in the mind of those characters. They never really left me behind. So when I'm taking a trip around Jersey City, I might see something that I think one of the characters might appreciate.
Enjoy. Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're still very alive to me, even though it was a long time ago that I wrote it. It's still the thing that I think about the most.
Can we purchase that somewhere?
Yes, I am going to be doing. In September. I'm going to be doing a performance at the Art House
Oh wow.
for Jersey City Fridays. So I'm going to be playing songs from my best liked album, which is now 20 years old, called Shoot Out at the Sugar Factory.
Wow.
We made it 20
That's
years
so
ago.
cool.
Yes, and we're going to do a Return to the Sugar Factory show. And at the Return to the Sugar Factory show, I hope to have a lot of Tris McCall material available. So I hope the book will be there, and get a copy of it there.
Absolutely.
You can get a copy of it on Amazon as well.
Oh, it's on Amazon as we speak?
Yeah, I think it is.
Oh my
I
God,
think
everybody
it is.
please stop what you're doing and go
Well,
purchase
okay.
it now.
And now it's time for me to
And
do
leave a five-star review,
what I
too.
always do, which is to give, which is to warn people that the book is, some people, well, here I am talking down on the thing that means the most to me. What does that say about me? What does it say? It's a wonderful book and everybody should read it. That's how I feel. Let me just leave it at that. It means so much to me. The music, it's very easy for me to say that if you enjoy synth pop, synth rock, if you like that kind of thing, if you like a certain kind of indie rock style with synthesizers, you will definitely enjoy the album Shoot at the Sugar Factory, and you will even enjoy even more the experience of seeing me perform it. But we'll be doing that September 8th at Art House. September 8th at Art House.
On Marine Boulevard, right?
Oh, yeah, right, yes. It's in the new Art House Theater, and I'm going to make a huge deal out of it. I'm going to tell everybody.
We should also get also do a book signing, please.
Yes, it will be a free show. So anybody who wants to, the only thing it will cost you to have a Tris McCall experience is about 45 to 60 minutes of your time, and maybe some of the cilia in your ear, because we will be relatively loud. It will be a rock show.
Oh my God, I love that.
And we're going to try to incorporate visual elements into the show. I'm not exactly sure yet how or what shape that's going to take, but I think we really want to avail ourselves of the theater. I think we'd love for there to be projections and things that I actually act out to the audience and make the songs clear to people. So it's going to be a really cool show, I think.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, and the book will be available there. And so the Instagram I think of as just a little fraction of the trespassers. Like, I think of that as something that, would those characters even use Instagram? Well, a couple of them would. Some of them would probably not, but a couple of them probably would, and I think that might be, I still see things through their eyes. Yeah.
Oh wow. Because the reason I brought up the Instagram, because I always admire how you're able to maybe like find beauty in decay, or like the urban areas where sometimes it's like badly lit, or there's like a big trash can that's overflowing. You take it in such a way that you're like, oh my gosh, there's like a romantic poetry to this, you know? And I always wonder, is he just like randomly taking a picture and it turns out beautiful, or is he actually like thinking about it? There's like a dialogue. But that makes so much sense. I
think the theme of the Trespassers is learning to love as learning to see as a way of learning to love. These characters have to, basically, they're young, they have to learn to love each other. The narrator really has to learn how and who to love, and I think that training his eye to see things, and you learn first to look. At first you're looking at something and it doesn't seem like anything to you, and then the closer you look and the more it observes, the more it may trigger emotions, and the more you observe and the more you can focus, I think the more you open up your own heart and your own possibilities of understanding and seeing. So that's really what the book is about. It's set in Hudson County, so they're exploring a lot of factories in Hudson County in the year 2004. But yes, I have the same feelings that my characters do, which is every old building has a story, right? And every place that you're looking at has a story, and everything that you see tells something. I'm looking around this room, and the way the light catches on this soundproofing tells me something.
It's cool, right?
Your shirt tells me something. This microphone tells me something.
It's like subtle things,
Everything has a story.
And
you just try to attune yourself to it. Yes.
I love how you're so observant. Even with your latest picture, it had like, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correct, or a wood palette. Is that how you say it?
What?
Like there's like the wood lean on the wall. It was just.
Oh yes.
The most recent picture.
Yeah, that was in Philadelphia. Yeah, I saw leaning.
That looked really cool.
I think it was the colors that I appreciated there. That the leaning palette was a participant in a conversation, I think, between a wall and a door. Because some of the same color paint was on there, and it was like it was trying to be more like the wall and the door. It felt aspirational to me.
It did.
And there was a no trespassing sign and some barbed wire there, so it seemed like there was danger. So it's to me, the little leaning palette was the main character, and he or she or it was attempting to adapt to an environment under dangerous conditions. That was the story that picture told me. And that's the emotion that I felt when I saw that poor guy. It's just a little wooden crate leaning up against the wall, but of course, anything that's a little forlorn looking, I'm going to identify with. So.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'm very excited. Going back to the art house, you said it would be part of one of the JC Fridays.
Yes, it's going to be JC Fridays for September 8th, and that's going to be
8th, okay,
me and a full band, me with my battery synthesizers, doing what I do, making a racket, and singing songs essentially about New Jersey. Because Shoot Out at the Sugar Factory is an album about urban life, but specifically urban life in Hudson County. All the songs are either set in Union City or Jersey City, and they were all written about my experiences here, or written from the perspective of characters that I invented that live in Hudson County. So that's what the album's about.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's beautiful. I only wanted to double ask that because when I had the idea for this podcast, what I really wanted to do was, because most podcasts they interview a guest and that's it for like this lifetime until. But what I was curious to do was kind of like every year interview the same person.
Yeah, to see how
they're doing.
Yes.
But now that you're saying that, I think
it's
that's
a
like
beautiful idea.
It's almost like a retrospective of your life. This performance on September 8th. At our house.
Unfortunately, there's too much of me to retrospectivize easily, because it's just a lot. There's way too much of me out on the internet. Like there's so much silly business, and it's hard to know what's worth paying attention to and what isn't. So I guess I'm trying to curate myself a little bit here by putting things forward that I think people should know about. I think that people should probably. These songs were designed for a concert setting, so they were designed to be to be part of a rock show, and so they've never really fallen out of the repertoire, because anytime we need to do a rousing rocker, you can always take something from Shoot Out at the Sugar Factory. That's where that's sort of the repository of my more crowd pleasing material. So you're going to get it all at once, and the book will be there, and you can take it or leave it. I hope you take it, and I hope when you do take it that you read it with an open heart.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Well, I'm getting my copy as soon as we finish with this podcast. I'm ordering my copy, and I will definitely do a 5-star review. I expect everybody listening.
I hope you enjoy it.
And I have a question: is your music on streaming platforms?
Oh yeah, totally. And there was a time, really the decade of the OOs. There was a time when music was pretty much all I did, and I played in a lot of different bands. I played in a bunch of indie pop bands, a number of related bands, some of which I think are really excellent bands. I played in a group called My Teenage Stride that I think I'm very, very proud of what I did in that group. And one of the groups that I played with back then, a group called Overlord, is still around. Overlord still makes records, and I think Overlord is really as good as it has ever been when we get together. Unfortunately, our bass player, she now lives in California. So it's hard for, she's coming back tomorrow. I mean, we're taping this in April, so this will be way too late. But she's coming back tomorrow. She's going to be in town. We're going to record and we're going to do a show while she's around. And then she's going to fly back to California. So we'll probably tour in California. But that was a group that I was with for a very long time. So during that time, I really did music all the time. And my music was distributed according to OO's technology. But the moment I started to when I really started to write rock criticism in a way that it would have been a conflict of interest, I kind of stopped. So I tapered off in the middle of the OO's decade. And I really have not restarted the engine until recently, in a real way. So it's possible to get all 4 of my albums. They all exist. I have not done anything to promote them since about the year 2007. It's been a really long time. But now I feel like I'm in a position where I can reintroduce myself to the town as someone who does have something to offer musically as well as a writer. So I think I'm letting people know that those records exist. So if you do look for Shoot Out at the Sugar Factory, it's there. And if you look at some of my other albums, the last thing I did was an album called Let the Night Fall, which is also an album about New Jersey. Everything I write is about New Jersey. It's all about New Jersey. I've always lived in New Jersey. Everything I write about is about New Jersey.
Well, makes sense,
Yes.
New Jersey is your muse, you could say, right?
It is. New Jersey is a muse, and New Jersey is a very specific muse. And you were asking before about inspiration. And it occurs to me that a better answer to your question, not that you should disregard the prior one, but a better answer to the question might be that I'm very deeply inspired by place. And when we're talking about what is the artist trying to communicate to you when you go into a gallery and you see what they put on the walls, what are they trying to say to you? so frequently in New Jersey, people really want to talk about New Jersey. And that's musicians, writers, artists. So much Jersey comes through, always. People are very proud to be from New Jersey. People are very curious about New Jersey, about what it does to you. And one of the things that is a running theme through Jersey City art that you see in so many shows over and over again is we are very concerned about the environment here. We're very concerned about not just about environmentalism, but what the environment in general, the effect that the environment has on us. You see work by, I mentioned Susan Evans Grove before, but I think of Amanda Thackeray, Jody Fink, many people repurposing old junk and making it look beautiful again. What can we do with all of this stuff that's been thrown away? What is our relationship to the built environment? How does it make us feel? You see that over and over. And New Jersey has a post-industrial style. There's a way in which the old factories, the old rhythms, the old urban design filters through. Artists are sensitive people, and you see that in the canvases. You see that in what they're writing, in what they're painting. You see that in the materials that they use, and you see that very frequently in the colors that are used. There's a lot of brick red used in Jersey. There's a lot of industrial gray.
Like a red oxide.
Yes, right.
Color,
a lot of institution green, a lot of textures that look old and industrial. And the way that we bring that to life in our paintings, the way we reanimate it, you see it all over the place. You see it in so many different shows. And that is a huge inspiration to me because I love New Jersey. I love encountering New Jersey. And you know, it's funny. You leave the Jersey metropolitan area, you travel around the country, and you meet interesting people. And I say that so many of those interesting people have some Jersey in their background. Like maybe their family's from Jersey, or maybe they've been here for a little while, maybe they went to college in New Jersey, but like it gets under your skin. And people who leave New Jersey, they so frequently come back.
No, that is true.
So it's true. It's a big inspiration to me.
That's so funny because when you mentioned Susan Evans Grove, she was a
she
previous
was
guest here. Shout out to Susan.
Yeah, shout out to Susan, a wonderful artist.
Yes, her still lives. When you were talking about repurposing, she did her series that she brought like damaged goods of electronics that weren't used anymore and mixed it with the flowers, and it shows like the decay of society in a way, and like how harmful we are as humans to this planet. We are the invasive species, you could say. But that's so amazing that we were both thinking the same thing in a way.
And a beautiful thing about Susan's still lifes is that not only do you get that message, and it's a very clear environmentalist message that comes through her photographs, but you also get the beauty of the component. She wants to let you know that the way we're living, maybe we should be better stewards of the planet, right? But she also loves how beautiful the motherboard is.
She
loves how beautiful the wires are, and how the curve of the wires mimics the curve of the organic. In New Jersey, artists very frequently like to make connections between the organic and the inorganic. There was a beautiful show last year that was all about the embankment. It was the Embankment Preservation Society put out a show that was about the 6th Street embankment, and so many of the, Eileen Ferrara did a beautiful job of making paper that kind of resembled rock. And that merger between the organic and the inorganic, you see frequently in photographs. You see it in paintings. You see it in sculptures, and it's another thing that we do. I think that we do very, very well.
That's an amazing observation. Like I kind of realized that subconsciously, but I never really put much thought. But the fact that you like put those two and two together, it makes a lot of sense. You're right about that.
It's an aesthetic. It's part of what we do. And I'm a Jersey loyalist, so I'm probably gonna cut all kinds of slack for what we do anyway. But you don't have to cut a lot of slack for visual art in Jersey City because the stuff here is so good. And at any given time, and people don't know this, but they really should know this, at any given time in Jersey City, there are art shows going on that are as good, if not better, than art shows that you'll see almost any place else. Artists come here. They know this is a magnet not just for the state. It's a magnet for people all over the region, all over the country. People come here because they understand that really good, really challenging, really unusual work is happening here. And it's very exciting work. It's inspiring. It's courageous work that's happening here. We don't have the publicity to let people know. That's why it's beautiful that you're doing what you're doing. You're advertising not advertising. You're talking to people. You're helping. Helping to let people know what we've got. Because what we've got is very, very special.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like it is. We have the big places. Mana Contemporary, which more people should know about. We have 150. The galleries at 150. Elevator. These incubators. But then we have a backbone. We have a backbone of small galleries that do outstanding shows really, really great shows. And just to throw out a couple,
And Novato's gallery.
and Novato's
Yeah.
gallery. Can't
Art
be
wall.
missed. The art wall and Novato's gallery, and Novato has a beautiful standalone gallery that's not that far from these other
Yeah.
places. It's really close to 150. Smush Gallery, really audacious stuff.
And
And Deep Space.
Yeah, Deep Space. Yeah.
Deep Space, which I get I get the rock chills even talking about Deep Space.
Yeah.
Deep Space is Smush, Deep Space, Ianta Space, another one. Everybody should know about these places because they all have individual personalities, different personalities. Smush does multimedia stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of their thing, they're interested in doing art at the intersections of dance and movement
Yeah.
and photography and music, and they really try to smush it all together in a really small space and see what happens and see if it holds together. Sometimes
Yeah.
it holds together, sometimes it doesn't, but even when it falls apart, that can be what makes it exciting. Ianta Space is a couple of different artists with really expansive, interesting visions, and when they deck out their rooms, they do beautiful installations. There's a great one there right now. And Deep Space. Deep Space is a community of artists and great curators who do fantastic shows every month, and they just hit it out of the park time and time again. And it's a small gallery in a place in Jersey City that doesn't get a lot of foot traffic. It's
Yeah.
Cornelison, but it is always worth checking out what they've got there because it's always provocative and it's always really playful and it's often really, really nerdy too. It's often really it can be people who are really in tune with like the world of action figures, or the world of comic books, in a way that if that's in your background, you're going to vibe with that. One of the great shows that they had there last year was the Bark the Dog show, which is a wonderful show by a painter who does very, very detailed, almost Hergé, almost details at the level of Hergé, of this little character, Bark the Dog, going through these amazing urban scenarios and machines that he built.
Yeah, I saw the
Sculptures.
art fair.
Oh, it was so good.
That was beautiful.
Sculptures that were based on the painting. So you saw both, and you got to kind of experience and try to understand who this character was. Right now, Clarence Rich, who's a street artist whose work is all over Jersey City, you see his he's got a really interesting visual signature, and you see him on underpasses, and you see his work on walls all over the place. He has a one-person show at Deep Space right now that isn't the street work. It's actually Clarence Rich applying his style to classical motifs. So there's a lot of Greek gods that he's painting, Egyptian symbolism that he's painting, and they encourage people to do interesting things. You walk into that room and you feel more interesting. It is to visual art as Maxwell's was to music in Maxwell's in Hoboken was to music. Just a place that you went into and you almost felt more creative just being in the room. Smush has some of that too. Ianta Space has some of that. Novato Gallery is an absolutely beautiful space. Everything that Ann Novato puts there is just, it's stuff that just you're just fascinated by it. She's got a tremendous eye, and she herself is a fantastic painter. And she doesn't always show her own stuff, but whenever she does, like I my eye goes up. She's a wonderful painter. And all of the people who are involved in this stuff they're all artists themselves. So they have artistic projects going on, and it's always worth engaging with what they do. But they're sort of the backbone of this whole thing. That's the small spaces doing really audacious shows all the time. Shows that I feel like everybody should know about. So yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have a question. Since you've been in Jersey City so long all your life, how do you feel about the future? You've seen the trajectory, more buildings going up.
Yes.
I feel like that's giving more opportunities to art spaces and art
Yes.
opportunity. What do you hope for the future of Jersey City? In terms of art.
I hope we don't erase everything in our desire to make a lot of money, because Jersey City has been a boom city on one level or another since I've moved here. So for 30 years, people have been talking about Jersey City as a place where you can go, you can buy property, and the value of that property would appreciate. In the mid-00s, we had a terrible casualty of just that, which is that we had a wonderful art center at 111 First Street. It was a great place with lots of artists who were in the space, and it was torn down. We lost that community, and we lost
Is
a lot
that
of those
like
people.
the big warehouse that had like kind of 200 artists
Yes,
in there?
it was a big, and there were two of them. There was one
Oh,
across the
wow.
street. It wasn't just 111. It was 110 across the street. A lot of artists in there, and that building was also torn down. So a lot of there's always a push and pull, right? It's wonderful that I like it when people make money.
Yeah.
Because I like when people's projects are successful.
Yeah.
That makes me smile. But we also want to be sure that we don't lose our souls in the race. And we're lucky to be in a boom town.
Mhm.
It could be worse. We're lucky to be in a place where people are doing stuff.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is that people in Jersey City often don't pay attention to what their neighbor is doing.
Mhm.
They're doing well on their own, and they don't feel the need to connect with the person next to them, or they don't feel the need to listen to what an unfamiliar artist is saying to them. They won't turn the dial on their internal radio to get in on someone else's wavelength. I want there to be more conversation, more criticism, more understanding, and more openness to ideas that might seem a little weird at first. Even if that openness is like, I don't like this. Tell me why.
Yeah.
Like
to start the dialogue.
More dialogue.
Yeah.
I think that Jersey City still has a way to go before it reaches its saturation. There are many, many neighborhoods that haven't shared in the prosperity of the downtown. And sometimes we forget about those places, although there's amazing art made in all of those places. Many of the galleries that we've been mentioning are in neighborhoods that are kind of out of the way.
Yeah.
So we have a way to go there. We have a way to go before we reach our destiny, whatever that destiny may be, which I think is probably going to be something. There's no real reason why this shouldn't be, why what we do here shouldn't be known all around the world. There's a tremendous amount of talent in the city. Sometimes we do punch below our weight because we're in the shadow of New York. So because of that, people may not pay as much attention to us as we deserve.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
I totally agree with you.
But I'm
because-
here waving the flag.
Yeah, no, please continue. You've done so much for the community, and I think a lot that us artists are able to. I don't know how to say this, but like when I have ideas for like certain group shows, right?
Yes.
And then we'll make something happen or whatever, or a small project, and then once a review from you goes up, it's like all of a sudden, it's like people go, oh, I have to check this out. You know what I mean? So you do a lot, like you truly do. And thanks to you, like we're able to access people that we never thought we like have a reach to. You know,
That's
what I mean?
beautiful of you to say. Thank
Yeah.
you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. It's not something that I understand is trending topics, or it's not a thing that. But that's why I try to write it in a way that's engaging.
Yeah.
I try to make it nice to. I try to make it fun to read because it's not necessarily what you're. It's not the thing that the internet seems to best accommodate at the moment. Individual art reviews or reviews of group shows and stuff. I'm going to continue to do it in one form or another because it's meant so much to me.
Yeah, no, you do it beautifully. So going back to your musical experience, because hearing you speak about music and everything, you reminded me like a hybrid cross between like Marina Abramovich, like performance art in a way, and then like David Bowie. You know?
I think anybody who does anything new wave influenced at all has their Bowie, has some Bowie in the algorithm. There's definitely. I grew up listening to a lot of those records.
Yeah.
Grew up listening to a lot of '70s classic rock, a lot of progressive rock. I mean, Aladdin Sane, the piano on that record is one of the real draws. That's a great early David Bowie record, and that is definitely a piano record where the piano playing is really it's really extreme, and it's extreme in a wonderful way. And that's definitely something that I've tried to do. Now, Hunky Dory, which is an earlier David Bowie album, which I love, piano player on that record is Rick Wakeman, who was the pianist in Yes. And Yes is my favorite band of any band ever. My favorite band is Yes. I'm a big fan of progressive rock in general, and Wakeman plays beautifully on Hunky Dory. He plays beautifully with the Straubs too, and those are records. I can't play like that. I wish I could play like that. I think my wish to play like that is audible on my albums. So I think the aspiration is, I like to think the aspiration is audible there, even if the execution is not so good. And I think maybe I should get points for that. I'm not sure.
Definitely,
Tony Banks, who was the synth player in Genesis, is a musician who I think about all the time, and who I've attempted to emulate many times, and I think I've always fallen on my face. But again, the intention is there, and I think it's meaningful that the intention is there. Those are all musicians that I try to sound like, and I think that when I've played, a very obvious comparison that I get a lot is Talking Heads, because of the subject matter. And because I'm a very nerdy person, so and on stage.
Nerdy just means you're knowledgeable, you know.
Well, I have glasses, and well, I mean, nerdy is not for me a problem. Certainly, being compared to David Byrne is a huge favorite of mine. Would never be a problem. But yes, Bowie, art rock, 70s in general, Brian Eno, all that stuff. Kate Bush, Tori Amos, all that stuff I think comes through in what I do.
Kate Bush is the one that kind of came back, right? Her song.
Yes, Running Up That Hill became a hit this year. Which just goes to show you that if you do a song, you never know when. If you do a work of art, you don't know when it's going to become. It could happen years later. Like suddenly, Kate Bush was on the top of the charts again. Which
can you believe that?
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks when they make a decision, but I have never been able to take the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame seriously because Kate Bush is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And everything that I hear that's modern, all modern music, that is well reviewed, indie music, but even soul and even the way that soul is produced now, it's all immensely influenced by Kate Bush. Sometimes I think that the era that we're in is nothing but a Kate Bush imitation contest. There are so many acts. They just are. They're trying to produce like Kate Bush does. They're trying to write like she does. But see, nobody can really do it. And the reason why, there's two reasons. First of all, she's an amazing piano player. She's an amazing songwriter. She's great at putting songs together. The other reason is that her songs, and no one has ever been more specific about what she writes about. She'll do a song about falling on a grenade. She'll do a song about being in the middle of the ocean with a flotation device with nobody around. She'll do a song about having sex with a snowman. Her topics are unbelievably specific, and they're so well written. No one has ever been able to tell short stories like that and sung the way that she does. So anyway, I'm a big fan.
No, she's amazing, and I'm so happy for her because I saw when that song came out, I started listening a little bit more to her discography.
Yes.
And I saw that she not only sang the song, she did the songwriting, the producing.
Yes.
So she gets the whole, royalties, which is amazing.
Yes. She is an enormously. I think she's a pivotal figure in the story of music. Almost as pivotal in her way as Joni Mitchell, although there is no one like Joni Mitchell. There will never be another Joni Mitchell. I think in a way Kate Bush is pivotal in shaping the sound of what we hear as pivotal as any figure. And it's very important that people remember that she came out of progressive rock, that a lot of her original champions were progressive rock artists, and she was using the musical vocabulary of progressive rock when she made the music that she made. So you're seeing the influences now that when you hear music now, you can trace a lot of that stuff back to the experimentation that was done in the late 60s and early 70s.
Definitely. And who else is like your musical influence that you would say?
Well, when I play the piano, I don't think I've ever sat down at the piano or played another person's band or played piano and organ, and that Steve Naive I wasn't trying to copy him on some level. I know every Elvis Costello album backward and forward. That includes the ones that people don't like. I think some of those are some of his best albums. I think there's nobody who late in his career is making more amazing music than Elvis Costello is making right now. Elvis Costello, I love all of his records. That's a big influence on the way that I play and the way that I write. Graham Parker. I mean, I do nothing all day but listen to music. When I'm writing, I tend to listen to 7, 8 albums a day. Or I just listen
Oh my God, me too. I'm a huge music lover.
Yes.
When you listen to music, are you listening to like singles or do you listen
No,
to
I
an
listen
album
to the
back
album
to
all
back?
the way through.
Oh wow.
It's important for me to.
And do you go from like track 1 to
all
track
the way
10 or do you
through.
shuffle?
I go all the way
By
through.
order? Okay.
Yeah, listen to,
Wow.
so I will listen to. I listen to albums all day
Me too.
because I think that the album is the greatest invention
Yeah.
that has ever been invented by human beings.
No, absolutely.
I think there's no better carrier of meaning and storytelling and message
Yeah.
than the pop album.
Yeah.
I think it's just the best thing that we've ever come up with as a species. And when I think about albums and what they mean to me, like, what have you been listening to recently?
Right now, I listen to like so much thing. Okay, this is kind of embarrassing because it's like very poppy, but I listened to like today when I was getting ready, I was listening to Blackout by Britney Spears.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because
Yeah.
Just the whole conservatorship.
Oh yeah,
news I
totally. Yeah,
love. I think
totally.
it's like
Yes.
probably the best top 5.
Yeah.
I love listening to Michael Jackson like an hour before we started to Invincible.
God, I love Michael Jackson.
2001,
Yes.
You Rock My World.
Oh yeah.
Ugh, I love that song.
Yeah.
I love
Michael Jackson. I get the rock chills just thinking about
I
Michael
know.
Jackson.
It's
As a
like-
kid, I wanted to be Michael
Oh my
Jackson
God,
so
yeah.
badly.
Yeah, like that's the thing with like music dropping nowadays. I remember like being a kid,
Yes.
getting excited to like get your little allowance money, go to the store, buying the CD,
I'm
like
still like that.
physical, and then sitting at home looking at the lyrics,
Yes.
memorizing, and then looking at the notes and the thank you.
I'm still that kid.
I'm very sad of it. Like
I
the
just do
young
it on
generation
Bandcamp.
don't have that.
I just
yeah.
do it on Bandcamp now.
Yeah.
I used to ride my bike to the Milburn Record Mill and get records and memorize the records.
Yeah.
Now I do it on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
So I'll buy the record on Bandcamp, but I'll still want to learn all the words and
Yeah.
listen to everything.
Yeah.
Listen to the albums all the way through on Bandcamp. So I do that all day.
There's just like something about having like a physical CD
Oh, there
and the
is.
booklet. To me, that
There-
booklet was
there
everything.
is. There so is.
And if you could make it like they have the post-strip version.
God, there so
Oh,
is.
yeah.
It's so true. I mean, I love I love records. I love vinyl. I love CDs, and it's fun. I too many of them.
Since you have such I think, an amazing musical knowledge, do you hear a difference? A lot of people don't. Some people say they do between like vinyl and CD.
I can hear the difference, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's really that.
That much?
I don't
Do
really
you have
think
a
it's that
preference?
important. Vinyl sounds so nice. Vinyl does have a beautiful sound to it. Usually people say that it's warmer, that it's more engrossing. I understand, I can always hear the difference between 2-inch tape and when something is recorded straight to a computer, even digital simulations of 2-inch tape, though they're very good now. But I still can in the same way that I can tell the difference between just the waveforms on an analog synthesizer, a real analog synthesizer, will sound different from soft synths. You can tell, but does it really matter? What matters is how well the people putting the music together get their ideas across to me. How well do you tell the story? What choices do you make to support what it is that you have to say?
Yeah.
That's what brings me back to an album again and again, and there are albums that I've been thinking about all my life and that I will always think about. And it usually has to, and the music is usually there. The music, the words, everything is kind of an expression of an idea. And the way those musical ideas are developed over a course of an album are fascinating, and they continue to draw me back. I think about an album, say, like, Kendrick's second album, Good Kid, Mad City, is a record that I've thought about a tremendous amount because there's so much narrative experimentation happening on that record. We recently lost Trugoy, which I think made us all go back to our De La Soul albums and remember how amazingly well structured those are, and how they work beautifully as albums, and how the storytelling works so well. We were talking about Brazilian music, and I listen to a lot of Mexican, Colombian, and Brazilian music because there are so many album artists working in pop styles there, and thinking about Caetano Veloso's albums and the way that he puts those records together, and the flow, and the ideas that are developed early in the album they come back later in different forms, and the lyrical concepts that he continues to return to, and just I love all that stuff. I really can't get enough.
I can't get enough. No, I could tell you because before we started, like,
Yeah.
I was so surprised and so shocked how much you knew of Brazilian music.
Oh yeah.
And the name of the artist, the album, the year the album came out, I was like, wow. You know, because a lot of people will give me like,
oh, there are people
sometimes
who are
like a
just
generic, you know what I mean?
And people are just fascinated when Brazilian music is so much to know.
Yeah.
Mexican music, there's so much to know. And one of the nice things that's happened over the last 10 years or so, as things have opened up a little bit more with music, is I think that we're starting to understand that Americans are a little behind. That some of our music is maybe not as exciting as what we're getting from overseas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because there's more experimentation and more influences coming together. Or sometimes in America we just like have what we do and we don't change. Where I think what's happening in Mexico City is very exciting right now.
Yeah.
The Pawa album, which is about to come out, I'm very excited about. But even folk artists like Natalia Lafourcade is a Mexican singer-songwriter. I think sometimes is the greatest artist in the world. She's essentially a folk artist, and she's doing a lot of old folk Mexican folk songs and incorporating motifs from that stuff into her own writing. But she's using modern musicians, and she's drawing so much stuff from it. It's really tremendously exciting. Medellin seems to be a place in the world where so much really cool music is being made right now. I'd love to go there, but I'd love to visit. So much cool stuff. Santiago in Chile seems to be a place where a tremendous amount of cool stuff is happening.
No, that's very funny you say that, because like I remember before I moved to America from Brazil, like as a kid we would listen to like Dolly Parton and like Bollywood, The Doors, Britney Spears, and then Michael Jackson. Like it was just like changing, you know.
Yeah, totally.
And then when I moved here, I remember like kids asking me, "Oh, what kind of genre of music do you listen to?"
Yeah.
Like it had to be like a category, and only that category, and it had to be in English. You know, there was no.
Yeah.
Like I remember MTV when I was growing up, it had like multi like culture. Like it would be like Evie Queen to you know what I mean, like to like Nirvana. So it was always this like you're always so. It's like you're like on a cultural trip in a way, you know. Where here was just like the standard 1, 2, 3, like the 2 pop girls, the 2 rock bands, commercial.
Yes, you had to. When I was growing up, it had to be metal. Everyone was into heavy metal.
Yeah.
Like you had to be a metal fan.
Yeah.
And like I appreciated it, but I was always interested in slightly weirder stuff in the commercial metal. Now there was really a lot of really weird metal that I later learned to enjoy. Yeah. But at the time, you know, there was some stuff that you were supposed to listen to, but I didn't always want to listen to whatever as it was.
So what I wanted to ask you, I saw not only you play so many musical instruments, it seems, that's correct?
I play mostly synthesizer, but I do play guitar, and I wrote a lot of my new stuff on bass. But I am not a good instrumentalist. I'm okay. I really rely on friends to help me out. I'm really the writer.
Yeah.
I write. I'm good at coming up with scenarios and characters and concepts. Maybe not as good at execution as I should be.
And are you like a big fan of live music?
Yes.
Yeah. I saw. Do you have like a newsletter, right, that you send out, or do you write like an email and then you send it out?
I usually write. There was a time when I was writing reviews of a lot of stuff, when I was just going out to shows and writing reviews of what I saw, what my friends were doing. And that changed into, once I started to be more professional, or once I started getting gigs, I started writing about name artists, big pop stars. And when I was writing for the Star-Ledger, which is a newspaper with a very large circulation, I was obligated to go and see the biggest stars in the world. So I would get the experience of seeing stuff that I was completely out of my stuff that I didn't really care very much about. I didn't know much about Kenny Chesney, but at that time Kenny Chesney was a big country singer. He was setting records for the biggest crowds in New Jersey, and that was an experience to see that, and I learned about that. And what I learned was that if you want to, you can learn music very fast. You can catch up with the genre very quickly. You can learn the history. You can learn the important stuff. You can kind of fit it into the framework. There's nothing that's in pop that's so forbidding that you can't learn it very quickly. And I love live performance. So I was doing a lot of that, and I kind of stopped doing it when Hillary couldn't go out any longer. I kind of stopped writing about that, but I still write about music all the time. It's just more local. I do a monthly column for Jersey City Times, which is a musical preview column, and depending upon how that develops, I may cover more live shows.
Yeah.
But I think I probably will. I'll probably in the future in Jersey City, I'll probably end up writing more about musical performances.
Yeah.
I think.
No, I brought that up because I remember a while ago you had I think it was like the Lower East Side you were playing the gig.
Yes.
And I was gonna go, but then I got stuck in traffic, and by the time you know what I mean, I was like all the way by like Upper West Side in the highway, and there was some type of like closure or construction.
On September 8th, I hope there'll be people around here. It's easy to get to the house, to be walkable. I hope I can get a lot of people down there.
Oh,
I think
definitely.
I'll do two more. I'm going to do two more shows in New York before that show.
As the warm up, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to try to warm up with a show.
Okay.
We're going to be doing another show at Berlin in late June. And what's exciting about that show is that we're playing with a band called Office Culture, who not a lot of people know about, but they should. They put out an album last year called Big Time Things, and I love that album, and I honestly feel like I love it more every time I've heard it, and I must have heard it 50 times. I mean, I must have played it 50, I've played it over and over again, and there's always something new to learn when I listen to it. It is a sophisti-pop album to a degree that might be a little off-putting at first. It's deeply indebted to the very late period Joni Mitchell albums, Turbulent Indigo and Taming the Tiger. I hear overtones of both of those two albums. And Joni, who is a tremendous songwriter, is able to do these hairpin turns with her chord structure, and you don't necessarily notice it because she's so good at writing that you don't notice how far out she's going. When people try to emulate that, you do notice, and you notice that with Office Culture. It's like, whoa, that was a crazy chord change they just did there. But it kind of doesn't matter, because once you get used to it, the intelligence that goes into the composition is really striking. So they're going to be doing a show, and me and a band will be playing before they play. And I will let everybody know about that, because as excited as I am to get people to see me, I really want people to see Office Culture. I want people to know about this group. They are doing very, very interesting stuff and big time things. All of their albums are great, but their most recent one is the best.
Oh my God, I'll check it out. And you said it's going to be New York, right?
It'll be in New York, in Berlin in New York.
Berlin.
Berlin is not in Germany. Berlin. Berlin is on the Lower East Side.
Definitely. I'll definitely make sure, if you're comfortable with it, to include all the upcoming events.
Oh yeah, totally.
And,
I'm going to let people know about that show for sure, because I want people to see Office Culture and hear that record, because it's a very unusual album, and his narrators are very unusual. His perspective is singular, and that's the thing that grabs me more than any other album. More than any other thing about an album, when the perspective that's being articulated by the front person is singular, when it doesn't sound like anybody else, then when their outlook, when their vision is their own, then I feel like then I want to return, always.
That's beautiful, I love that. So I just forgot, because I was just thinking, like, when you're talking about, like, just reminded me of, like, Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall, when he starts yelling in the end of the song, and there's like all those noises. Like, oh wow, this is so. I remember being a kid, like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
I love Pink Floyd.
I know, and I love the song Time.
Oh yes, my third favorite band ever is Pink Floyd.
Really?
I would have mentioned. I should have mentioned Rick Wright, another enormous influence on me. But I feel like Rick Wright is actually so good that's a little intimidating. And I think when people think about Pink Floyd, they think about Rick Wright third, after Roger Waters and David Gilmour, if they think about him at all. But we're all trying to do on synthesizer what he did almost effortlessly in the 70s. We're all trying to catch up with Rick Wright, and I don't think we have. When you listen to what he did on Wish You Were Here in particular, on some of the sounds that he got on Shine On Crazy Diamond, it's just outrageous. We've been trying to do that. We've been trying to emulate that, and we can't do it. So yes.
What do you think about Jim Morrison?
Love him. I love him. I think he's a wonderful, wonderful frontman. Great, very exciting. Kind of taught people how to be a dark frontman. You know what I mean? How to incorporate dark themes into the music. And I get distracted when I hear The Doors by Ray Manzarek, even more than Jim Morrison, because Ray Manzarek's electric piano is another thing that I have ripped off quite a bit. But I made
Not
music
rip off, tribute. You're
yes,
very
it's a tribute.
homage.
There are things in my
Yeah.
songs that you could tell that I've heard the Doors once or twice.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Hey Tris, thank you so much for coming on the
Thank you.
podcast. It's been
Thank
a
you.
truly pleasure. I'm honored. And you are the first episode for season 3.
Excellent.
So that's an amazing thing. Would you mind giving us your website and Instagram, please?
If you want to know more about me than you probably want to know, you can always go to trismccall.net. So TrisMcCall.net. And that is a very deep geological strata of my writing going back for decades. I mean, there's a lot of stuff about music on there, a lot of stuff my music, and there's fiction on that site as well. But if you really want my fiction, if you're really interested in my fiction and music, and you don't mind listening to demos, a great site to visit is McCall's Almanac, which is www.mccalls.almanac.com. And McCall's Almanac is a series of songs that I wrote really in 2015, 2016. Each of those songs was narrated by a different character representing a different American city. And I wrote the song and a short story at the same time. So if there's a map of the United States, and you go and you see the different characters, and you can click on the character. They're illustrated by a cartoonist. So let's say you go to Pennsylvania, there's a song that's set in Philadelphia. You can click on that guy, or a song set in Pittsburgh. And you get the song, a demo version of the song, the lyrics, a couple recommendations that are now out of date about the city, and also a short story song written from the perspective of the character. And some of those short stories are very, very good. Now, the way that we designed the site, you got to scroll to get to the short stories. I don't know if people ever scroll, but let me give a little plug that if you don't mind a relatively light story, that's a long story. My story that's set in Madison, Wisconsin, I think is very interesting. I love the Louisiana story, and that's all on McCall's Almanac. You can always find my writing on Jersey City Times. I've been writing there. I've been writing a lot for njarts.com, which is a great njarts.net, sorry, which is a great New Jersey Arts Daily, which is a great website that covers the entire state. And my Instagram is trismccall_NJ. So at trismccall TrisMcCall_NJ.
I was just about to say, can you spell it for us?
Yes, yes, and it is pictures of a lot of pictures of old buildings and parks. And
really
like
beautiful
Tris
pictures.
McCall
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
That's perfect. And thank you so much for being on the
Thank
podcast.
you.
It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Tarik Talk. Follow Tarik Talk on all social media channels and check out the video interviews online.